Syracuse basketball got a much-needed blowout victory over Binghamton last night, and you all had plenty to say about it. So let's break it down.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And of course, we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are breaking down your comments following Syracuse basketball's 85-47 victory, season opener win over Binghamton. And it was much needed. After what happened last year, after getting called out by their own coach, after the second exhibition game against Pace for lack of effort, lack of intensity, getting punked, Syracuse basketball came out flying, and they played a complete 40 minutes against Binghamton, and they get rewarded with a blowout win. We'll get to your comments in just a moment, but first, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I promise we're going to get to your comments in just a moment, but we did have a lot of comments from you all about the athleticism. So I did not pick out a single comment related to the athleticism because we had plenty of them to choose from. So as a result, I will address all of you who commented about the team's athleticism. And what I will say is you all could not have said it any better. They were significantly more athletic last night than what we have seen in the past from Syracuse basketball. And that was really the goal of the offseason. Not only increase the talent level, but also get guys who can run up and down the floor, get guys who appear long and appear athletic. And they looked the part in the season opener. I get it was against Binghamton. I understand that completely. But they looked a lot more athletic this year, especially than last year. Where last year they were barely beating out teams like Binghamton. I mean, you got to talk about the season opener last year where they barely beat Lemoyne. They needed a last possession victory on that one. And we don't need to go through that whole debacle. Point is, super athletic. Donnie Freeman actually post-game mentioned the biggest difference between last year and this year is team athleticism. So I'm with you. Donnie's with you. We're all happy about the team athleticism, at least for one game. Now, let's get to your comments. This first one is from Sean. Best 40 minutes of defense I have seen from Syracuse in a long time. Offensively, I think Red needs to put his foot down with the 3 attempts until they can hone in offensively. No need to let any game get out of hand this season by attempt after attempt. Sean, we will get to the three-point shooting, or really lack thereof, later on in the episode because we had another person comment about it. But to your point about the defense, you are right that it is the best Syracuse defense we have seen in a long time in just an individual game. Because the last time Syracuse basketball held a team to under 50 points, you got to go back to early in the season of 2022-23 when Syracuse was hosting, I believe, Northeastern, and they held them down to 48 points in a blowout victory. I want to say it was the third game of the year, and it was just after they lost to Colgate. So they got a nice bounce-back win after a loss to Colgate. They held a team under 50 points. That's nice. It's been a long time since Syracuse basketball was able to do that very same thing. And I think one of the big reasons why is right from tip-off, they appeared to be motivated. They were swarming. They were the ones that were forcing mistakes of Binghamton. I get that Binghamton's not a very good team, but Syracuse basketball did not care that they were not a very good team. Did you notice really at any point over the course of 40 minutes that they really took their foot off the gas? Because I didn't. Was it a perfect game? Absolutely not. But the defensive intensity was there from start to finish. And Adrian Autry, in his post-game press conference, he downplayed the idea that Syracuse basketball was out there to try to make an impression. Okay, that's what he said. This is one of those rare times where I'm going to call BS, but in a good way, on Adrian Autry. Because Adrian Autry deserves a lot of credit for how he got this team motivated for the season opener. Remember, he was the one, post-game press conference, after the game, the exhibition against Pace, where, I freaked out. And I freaked out because of the team's lack of effort and how they cannot do that in a real game. And the fact that the game prior, they took their foot off the gas and nearly blew it against Buffalo. And I understand it wouldn't have mattered because it's an exhibition game, but you don't want to build these bad habits. And so Adrian Autry said in the postgame after the Pace game that, hey, my team got punked. We did not display a lot of effort. There was not a lot of energy, not a lot of intensity. And so he motivated this team. He lit a fire into this team. Maybe they weren't out there to necessarily, make a good impression to people, but I think it was more about within themselves and understanding that the job, you want to make the NCAA tournament, you got to play for 40 minutes. You got to give max effort, max hustle, max defensive intensity for 40 minutes. And that's why last night was ultimately such a joy to watch, because everyone on the court looked like they legitimately cared, that they wanted to be out there, that they were excited, and that they were doing their best. Was it perfect? No. But I think that's the biggest reason why Syracuse was so great defensively. Is it going to translate to future games? We'll get to some comments later on where I'll address that. But for now, great start for Syracuse basketball. Let's get to this next comment here. This is a very interesting one. This person did not leave their name, and that is okay. We still read comments from people who don't leave their names. Who do you give more credit to, Adrian Autry or Alex Kline? For those that don't know, Alex Kline is the general manager of Syracuse basketball. The answer, in my opinion, is Adrian Autry. Adrian Autry ultimately gets the credit or the blame for this season in terms of the roster itself. And here's why. Alex Kline and Adrian Autry, obviously they work together, and Alex Kline is in charge of doing essentially all the dirty work. He's got to go behind the scenes. He's got to scout players. He's got to talk to agents. He's got to figure out the deal. What's going on? Who could be available in the portal? What's going on in recruiting? Who's out there in high school? All that stuff, right? But Adrian Autry, from what we have been told, has the final say. And so if Adrian Autry has the final say, that means he gets the credit if the team does well. But if the team does not do well, Adrian Autry is the one who gets the blame. Ultimately, it's one of the big reasons why Adrian Autry is getting a year 3, because he was in charge of all the behind-the-scenes work as well heading into the 2024-25 season. Syracuse did not hire a general manager until the summer of 2024 when the roster was basically finalized. And so Syracuse in the offseason, one of the reasons they said they were going to give Adrian Autry another year is because they wanted to see how he would do with a general manager actually helping him construct the roster. So therefore, Autry can focus more on the coaching. It's a system that a lot of teams in college basketball and college football and college sports in general are using. It's becoming a lot more common with the transfer portal. But at the end of the day, if Adrian Autry is the final decision maker, he's the one that gets the credit, and he is the one that also gets the blame if the team does not do well. We still got plenty more comments to react to here on this edition of Locked On Syracuse. And hey, feel free to comment your thoughts in the comment section below right now. Your first impressions of Syracuse basketball this season. Do you think that they're going dancing? comment your thoughts in the comment section below, because that's the next comment we are going to get to. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is offering new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's a done deal. Syracuse basketball, after last night's win over Binghamton, they are 100% a lock to make the NCAA tournament. I'm just kidding. But this commenter may not be kidding, because he says, "We are going dancing, baby," with a bunch of emojis. A orange, a basketball, a strong emoji, and a 100 emoji. Shout out to this person for their optimism. This person did not leave their name. That is okay. But hey, I love the optimism that you think after one game, Syracuse basketball is going to the NCAA tournament. But we got to slow down a little bit. Let's pump the brakes. Deep breath. Good start. Really good start. Really impressed. Am I convinced after one game that this is going to be a tournament team? Not yet. They need to do a lot more. This is only one of 30 plus games that they're going to play this season, and it was against Binghamton. And to this commenter, remember how earlier in this podcast, I cited the example, or I cited the last time Syracuse basketball held a team to under 50 points and how it was early in the 22-23 season. Syracuse basketball did not make the tournament that year. In fact, they did not come close. That was the final year of the Jim Boeheim era. They lost in the ACC tournament on a walk-off buzzer beater to Wake Forest. I remember that day very well. Same type of situation where you held a team under 50. They missed the tournament that year, and they were not particularly good. However, this is where we can be optimistic and understand the situation that Syracuse basketball is in. I have been preaching for a very long time on this show. You got to go back to maybe when I started here at Locked On Syracuse in February of 2024. That's right. Now I feel like a veteran of this show. And I've always said in college sports that style points matter. It's just the way it works. I didn't design the system. Don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you like it is. And this is how a lot of it is done, because you have a lot of teams in the country who are going to have similar records. And so there's got to be a way that we can separate some of these teams. And so ultimately, a lot of it comes down to style points. It's how you look. Obviously, if you win a certain amount of games, the style points are no longer going to matter, except they will matter. Because you can win 27 games, but if you don't look particularly good during the year, that could impact your tournament seeding. There could be a team that wins 25 games that gets a 5 seed, but you're stuck at a 7 seed. So style points matter. And so along those lines, this is where we can be optimistic. Syracuse basketball, with a 38-point win over Binghamton, they rose 7 spots in KenPom. They started the season at 68. Last time I checked, they are at 61. You do that 3 more times heading into Vegas. If you can continuously try to rise 7 spots, think about where you could be. You could be right on the edge of NCAA tournament consideration already. So, are they going dancing? Time is going to tell. We don't know that just yet. We cannot make that determination after one game. But what we can acknowledge is that it was a job well done. and that Syracuse basketball, by blowing out Binghamton, by playing a complete 40 minutes, the metrics smiled upon them and said, hey, you're going up 7 spots in KenPom. By the way, you want to know another flaw, by the way, about these systems? If you want to rant about systems real quick, anyone catch that Boise State lost to a Division II team? They lost to a Division II team? Anyone catch that? Did not affect them. Because teams don't get rewarded or penalized by playing Division II teams, even if it's in the regular season. It's very similar to a few years ago when Syracuse took on Chaminade in Maui. They blew them out by 50, but it does not matter. It does not count towards your net. It does not count towards your KenPom, your Evan Maya, whatever advanced metric you want to use. So the system is not perfect. I don't think it's perfect at all. I don't think it's close. I think the system, by the way, they need to account for garbage time. I think it's absurd that you need to play your starters in the final 3 minutes of a game when you're up 30 points to try to win by 40 instead of 30, or winning by 20, or whatever the case may be. I think there are many flaws with the system that is in place, but it is the system that we have. And so as a result, instead of crying about the system, Syracuse just needs to take advantage of it. Figure out how to beat the system. That's what they did last night. We'll see if they'll go tournament dancing, though. We'll find out. But good comment. Let's get to the next one here from Gene. We do need to make those open shots, especially the threes in regular season and tourney. You are absolutely right that Syracuse basketball needs to hit their open shots. What more do you want me to say? I can continue to add to it. Don't get me wrong. I have plenty of notes written down. But Gene, you're spot on. You're absolutely right. There were really only 2 negatives from this game. Number one, J.J. Starling going down with an injury. That's not fun. That's not cool. We don't want anyone to get hurt. And number 2, it was the 3-point shooting. And the fact that Syracuse went 4 for 21. That is less than 20% in a game. But Gene, I liked how you phrased that take. I don't even know if it's really a take. I liked how you phrased the comment, Gene, because you said open shots. Were there really a lot of moments in this game against Binghamton last night where you felt that Syracuse was settling for jumpers, settling for outside shots? I mean, last night on the post-game show, I pointed out one example where it was in the first half and Donnie and Naithan George, they're just playing catch at the top of the key. Nobody's moving around. It gets to the end of the shot clock. Donnie hoists up a 3, and of course it doesn't go in. That's an empty possession. That was just completely unproductive. That's what drives me nuts. But most of the time, Syracuse was getting good looks, and they were not hitting them. And so, Gene, you're absolutely right that they do need to go in, but at least the process for the most part was there. I don't know if it's going to turn around, but I'll take the process for now because it's only one game in the year and it didn't hurt them yet. Obviously, when we talk down the line, when Syracuse is playing, really good teams, the 3-point shots are going to have to go down. But I mean, look, from last night, Tyler Betsy, he goes 1 for 7. Nate Kings goes 0 for 3. Donnie goes 0 for 2. I think Kiyan went 1 for 3. Sadiq went 0 for 2. Somebody eventually just has to hit some shots. I'd prefer it to be Nate Kings because Nate Kings last year at Oregon State shot nearly 45% from the 3-point line, and he did it on, I think, nearly 5 3-point attempts per game. So he was a high volume, highly efficient 3-point shooter. I was pumped when Syracuse got him. Hopefully the shots start falling. Not much more I can really add to it, but maybe you have more you can add to it. So comment in the comments section below. Coming up, we still got a couple more comments, that we can react to here. We'll talk about the next steps for Syracuse basketball, whether or not they can replicate the performance they just had. And we'll also maybe talk a little bit about Vegas. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. College football is in the final month of the regular season, and I could not be more excited about it. The tailgates, rivalries, energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. You got endless queues, you got hidden fees, prices just jumping at checkout, and that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you are going to pay. And honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code Locked On College, LOCKED ONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Locked On Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. Let's continue reacting to your comments following Syracuse basketball's season opener, their victory over Binghamton 85-47. Let's get right to it. This is coming from Jeff. Big test, still be, do they let up in the next game or keep their foot on the gas? Jeff, it's like we're in sync. It's like we're in sync. That's the $1 million question. Are they going to replicate maximum effort, maximum intensity for this Saturday against Delaware State? Delaware State is rated 242 in KenPom. It's a step up from Binghamton. Binghamton was in the 300s. This team's in the 200s. But this is still another team that Syracuse basketball should dominate. They should crush. Should not be a contest really at any point. But it will only be that way if Syracuse basketball displays maximum effort and defensive intensity. Clearly, they can beat these teams not shooting well. They can go 4 for 21 from 3. They don't need Nate Kings to hit 8 threes, although that would be pretty cool to see, but they don't need it against these teams. Show some heart, show some passion, show some effort, play defense. You'll have no problem with Delaware State. You'll win by 20, win by 30. You'll go up a little bit in KenPom and Evan Maya and all the advanced tools and all the stuff that determines your tournament, and cool. But that's the $1 million question, Jeff. Is this team going to do it again? Or are they going to fall into old habits? Maybe they get out to a big lead, they take their foot off the gas, they win by 7. Or they're just flat the whole game, they don't play well, and they barely win. Or do they lose? I don't know. We'll find out on Saturday, but I'm definitely encouraged after what we saw in the season opener that they can do it again. And you have a long turnaround. I mean, we played on Monday. The game's on Saturday. I mean, you got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's 5 days. No excuses. No J.J. Starling, maybe. I don't know. I don't dominate Delaware State. Let's do that. Final comment here. And I've kind of touched on this already, but this is a good point by Steven. And Steven says, let's just pump the brakes a bit. Not trying to be negative. I want this team to be good like everyone else. I just want to dance. It's been so long. I need to dance so I won't get my hopes up to be let down. Let's see how they play in Las Vegas. If that goes well, maybe we can have a season that matters. Steven, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Last night was not about crowning Syracuse basketball as if they are now a lock to make the NCAA tournament. As much as I would love to believe that and to say that to you all, that's not the reality. Last night was about congratulating them on a job well done, doing exactly what they needed to do. You're better than this Binghamton team by a wide margin. Now go out there and beat them by a wide margin. And they did that. And they got rewarded for doing that. And Steven, I'll go a step further than what you're saying. I don't even care about Vegas. Vegas is 3 weeks away. Syracuse still has 3 more games that they have to play before you get to Vegas. And you can't have any slip-ups in those games. You obviously got Delaware State this Saturday, but then after that, you got Drexel. And then after that, you got Monmouth. How about take care of business against those teams? Do what you did against Binghamton 3 more times, and then let's see how they play in Vegas before we start making determinations about really the ceiling for Syracuse basketball, whether or not they're actually going to make the NCAA tournament this year. So I'm right there with you, Stephen. I'm also not trying to be negative, but I am not going to overreact to one game and say, "Oh yeah, they're going to make the tournament. They're a lock. They're a fantastic team." It's one game. Do it again. As I've said before, this is not a team right now that I am giving the benefit of the doubt to. They have not made the tournament in 4 years. This coaching staff is entering year 3. So obviously they haven't ever made the tournament. And I know it's pretty unfair to hold a lot of these players, to hold them responsible for last year because they were not on the team. Only J.J. Starling was and Donnie Freeman was. That was it. But I cannot give this program just yet the benefit of the doubt. So, Stephen, I don't want to be negative either. And I'm not trying to be negative. Congratulate them on a job well done. They had a great game. They now need to do that 3 more times. Then they need to go out to Vegas, and we'll see how they handle themselves against 2 of the better teams in the country. Houston's amazing. Kansas is amazing. That 3rd game will not be easy no matter what, because I think pretty much every program that's going to Vegas is good. You got Tennessee also on the schedule. You can't ignore St. Joe's. And that's even before ACC play. There's a long way to go for Syracuse basketball before we can crown this team as the team that gets back to the NCAA tournament. What are your thoughts? Comment in the comment section below. What's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future? Tomorrow, crossover podcast with Alex Dono, the host of Locked On Canes. And then on Thursday, we got a mini podcast with Brian Smith going over Syracuse football recruiting and the fact that they flipped to Darius Hughes, a 4-star defensive back, away from Florida State. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.